Daily Tech News Show is made possible by you listening right now. Thank you. Maybe you're Tony Glass. If you are, thank you. Peter Bohack, Philip Less, Christian Seneseth, all of you, thank you. On this episode of DTNS, Google makes its new Pixels official. Jason Howell will let you know what's notable about the announcements. Plus, the Verge outed a Valve game, and some people are very upset. And yay, our passwordless future is getting brighter. This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Animal House, I am Sarah Lane.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
I don't feel like I really sold our passwordless future getting brighter. I sounded doubtful.
Did you?
You sound doubtful.
Now I'm doubting you.
But Sarah's going to tell us why the passkeys are going to save us.
Correct.
All.
Correct. It is, it's a future so bright we got to wear shades.
Mm-hmm. And you can unlock those shades without having to use a password. All right, let's start with the quick hits.
Chinese companies have been testing Huawei's Ascend 910C AI chip, which Huawei says is comparable to last year's NVIDIA H100. Because Chinese companies are restricted from buying NVIDIA's higher-end chips, demand is now high enough that Huawei may have to delay its October ship date target.
A study looked at tablet use and temper tantrums in kids of 315 parents in Nova Scotia, Canada. The parents were asked to assess how often their children used tablets and fill out a behavior questionnaire, a standardized questionnaire that can assess child anger. The survey was taken when the children were 3.5 in 2020, 4.5 in 2021, and 5.5 in 2022. Increased tablet use in 2020 was correlated with increased anger assessment in 2021, and that was correlated with increased tablet use in 2022. But this is lockdown era, so the study people said, keep that in mind. There might be other causes here as well.
Yeah, well, tell that to my immediate neighbors. Canalys defines an AI PC as one that includes a chipset or block for dedicated AI workloads, such as an NPU. Under that definition, AI PCs made up 14% of all PCs shipped last quarter, 60% of which ran macOS.
Chip production in the U.S. is increasing, but there may not be enough workers to fill all the jobs. A McKinsey study estimated there will be a shortage of between 59,000 and 146,000 workers in the industry by 2029. A third of chip engineers are near retirement as well, so we're only going to lose more of them. McKinsey recommends that universities continue to develop training programs, companies reach out to other industries where workers might have some transferable skills, as well as immigrants and veterans willing to train on the job.
Stratospheric balloon company Urban Sky is testing how its balloons can help monitor wildfires in Colorado using sensors and long-wave infrared cameras that can transfer data to ground crews. Balloons have an obvious advantage over satellites and drones because they're cheaper to operate. They can also fly in the stratosphere where there's almost no other air traffic.
The Verge's Sean Hollister, just on the show yesterday. And after that, he published a little story that has caused quite a stir. Sean got an email invite to try Valve's unannounced game called Deadlock. Now, the email invite itself didn't have any limits. It didn't say what he could talk about or what he couldn't. Sean described it in his Verge article as Overwatch with elements of Dota 2. And he did note, in fact, included a screenshot of a pop-up that said, early development build. Deadlock is still early in development with a lot of temporary art and experimental gameplay. Do not share anything about the game with anyone. However, Sean Hollister did not press OK, agreeing to that. He pressed escape, and then it went away. So he wasn't prevented from playing the game after seeing the pop-up, and he didn't technically agree to it. He then published a story with descriptions of the gameplay and screenshots, and after that story went live, was banned from matchmaking mode. He can still play it on his own, but he can't go play with others. And Gadget notes that SteamDB estimates there are around 16,000 people playing this game who have been invited to try Deadlock. Now, Valve has made no public statements as of this recording about either the game or the Verge article, but some Valve fans are mad at Hollister and the Verge for publishing this when Valve asked them not to. Sarah, from the journalistic point of view, what do you think? Should they have done this?
I think The Verge's publication I respect greatly. I also think that I can understand where someone would be like, this is essentially a spoiler that I didn't ask for. I know it's not exactly the same thing as a TV or movie spoiler, but it's sort of like, the game's not finished. You're showing us stuff. It's either spoilery or it might even just not be accurate as far as what game we're going to play later. So, you suck for ruining everyone's fun. And also, Valve asked you nicely not to do this. Well, it wasn't an NDA. It wasn't an embargo. They didn't prevent The Verge or Sean Hollister from playing the game. If you get a pop-up that says, hey, you need to agree to this, and there's some legal implications and you don't agree, well, don't let them play the game then. Now, that's kind of where I stand on this. I also think that you're being maybe a little pushy in the sense of being first rather than being kind. But again, if we're talking honor system, I think things need to be a little bit more cut and dry.
Yeah, I agree with you. Being first versus being kind. And it depends on what perspective you take on this, in my own mind, what decision I come to. From the journalistic perspective, and I know this isn't people are going to die if they don't publish it, but from the journalistic perspective, if you get access to something that is of interest to your audience and important to it, you report on it. And you shouldn't be beholden to companies not to report, right? That is how you get access journalism causing problems, where they can later say, well, we don't want you to say this. So from a journalistic perspective, I 100% support this. You should be able to say whatever you want as long as you're not violating an agreement, and he's not. On the other hand, from the community perspective, from the I'm a fan and I like the games perspective, it isn't kind, and sometimes journalism isn't kind, but it isn't being a good community member to do this. Valve asked nicely, hey, please don't share this. And if a community member had gone and leaked it on Reddit or something, people would be flaming that person, and rightly so, right? Because they're being a bad community member. So.
Well, and if that had happened and The Verge said, hey, so-and-so on Reddit leaked all these screenshots, all of a sudden nobody's mad at The Verge, because The Verge is just it's out there and we're passing it along because we're a news organization.
That happens all the time, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know. I look at this and I think maybe in hindsight's 2020. Also, I should make sure people know that Sean is my brother-in-law. He's married to my wife's sister, so don't believe anything I say about him. But I think that they probably should have toned it down. They probably should have said, hey, we got invited into this game. Maybe don't do the screenshots. Maybe just say we got into this game and we were able to play it without agreeing to anything, and soft pedal the story a little. That's what I say now, though. I probably would have said the exact same thing the Verge editors said to Sean beforehand, because it's too juicy of a story not to.
Yeah. I mean, I'd venture a guess that the folks that enjoyed a sneak peek into a game that they're eagerly anticipating probably outweighs the, I don't know, the small number of folks, not even including the 16,000 people who have access who were upset about this.
Yeah. I mean, probably I get it. This is not the Pentagon Papers or WikiLeaks or something level stuff, but still, that is how journalism works. Let's move on to good news about our passwordless future that I promised. Sarah, tell us the good news.
Well, the bad news is that we're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer all the time. Password manager Dashlane shared its first Passkey report, never did one before, covering which websites and services are driving Passkey adoption the most as the more secure option over passwords. Based on hundreds of thousands of anonymized Passkey authentications over the past year that Dashlane looked at, so-called sticky consumer apps that people use the most often, daily or weekly basis, are the Passkey leaders. Amazon is in first place, 89% growth over the past 3 months. Then you've got Target, bookkeeping service Moneybird, eBay, and Adobe, all others in the top 5 of their users who are using passkeys. Dashlane notes that some of the results tend to skew when users authenticate through Apple and Google, since in those cases, they're less likely to use a third-party service. So that's why neither Google or Apple are in the top 5. And Dashlane reports that its own passkey usage, because it's a password manager, is up 400% since the start of this year, with 1 in 5 active Dashlane users having at least one passkey that's stored in their vault. And we know, all of you know, the difference between passkeys and passwords. But, a good way to explain it to somebody that you know and love and don't want their password stolen is, fingerprints, facial recognition, a PIN number, QR code that, you can use to share a passkey between 2 devices. All great options over passwords. Password managers are also great, but passkeys can make your life easier, honestly, as long as you understand which services are using them, and the fact that you can't reuse a passkey. It's only, my Amazon passkey, for example, I can't reuse that anywhere. It's not my mother's birthday. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's a handshake agreement between your local device and a server somewhere where the server does not know your personal information.
We have a whole episode to know a little more about this. Go check it out, knowalittlemore.com. I've got a chapter in Synced about this as well. Passkeys are ready. They are secure. They are way better than passwords. I highly encourage everyone to adopt it. I do agree that we're not ready to just use passkeys. I understand why there's a password backup and other backups to logging in, but the more people who adopt and say yes to passkey, the better. So I am encouraged by this report that the growth is what it is. Also, I didn't know Moneybird was all that popular. Like, that's interesting as well.
I know.
That was kind of a side note there.
I actually had to look it up because I didn't know what Moneybird did. They do bookkeeping.
The
and
new
apparently they have a lot of secure users. So good on you, Moneybirders. Well, if you have a thought about anything we talk about on the show, passkeys or otherwise, send it our way. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Jason Howell was at the Made by Google event in Mountain View, California, and took time out of that hectic schedule to talk to us. Jason, thank you, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. This is a lot of fun. I've never actually been, I've covered a lot of Google hardware, legit. Oh, hey, there's Ron Richards.
Hey, Ron Richards.
Ron Richards coming into shot. I've covered a lot of these events from afar. I've never actually been to their Pixel hardware event in person, so it's been cool to kind of get the other side of the glass experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's run through. We got 3 new Pixel 9s. We actually got 4 9s if you count the Fold, but let's not talk about the Fold. The 9, the 9 Pro, and the 9 Pro XL. So we have 2 sizes of the Pro. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so I mean, and by the way, I do have the 9 in my hand, which I can, do the device showcase in my hands. And it looks like a pretty solid device. I'm really excited to put it through its paces. Really, I think largely what Google has been talking about the last couple of years when it comes to these devices, and especially this year, it's all AI. Everything is really directed at what can this device do for you that maybe we had promised before, but now we can actually deliver because it's got a Tensor G4 chip in it. It's got Gemini on device. It's got that Gemini Nano. So now with the 9 series, you can do multimodal processing and everything. All of it designed to, hopefully make the phone more useful on a regular basis, get more people using AI instead of it being this fun, little thing that when you think about it, it might, write a short paragraph for you. Now it's like its tendrils are interwebbing through all of their devices on a deep level because of that Tensor G4 chip in there, really kind of supercharging things.
Yeah, and you get more RAM, which,
big time.
because you're going to need it with all of that AI, right?
You are. Yeah, the 9 gets 12 gigs, and then the 9 Pro and 9 Pro XL get 16 gigs, which is a large amount of RAM, especially for Google. We're seeing that. We've been seeing, those large RAM sizes on other devices for a while. I feel like Google's always kind of a step or 2 behind in previous Pixels as far as that's concerned. Now they're really stepping up, and they need to because AI is very thirsty.
Yeah, and there's less differentiation, it feels like. The 9 and the 9 Pro look the same. They just differ in specs. And then the Pro XL is the same specs as the Pro. It's just a bigger display, right?
Yeah, exactly. You do get, some upgrades like the display technology, the Actua on the 9 versus the Pro and XL getting super Actua. So you're getting a little bit, more sharper, brighter, that sort of stuff. You're getting a vapor chamber on the phone. So, which just sounds cool. It sounds like a synthwave band or something. But it's essentially it's going to mean that you can do better, kind of lower heat impacted gaming. Higher performance gaming isn't going to tax the device. And Pixels in the past have had some kind of hot to the touch issues. So hopefully the vapor chamber addresses that. But yeah, the phones look pretty solid.
Yeah. Add Me was kind of a fun one where you can take 2 group shots and add yourself. Was that your favorite, or was there another one of these new features like Reimagine or Panorama with Night Sight or something?
I mean, honestly, there's so many that they announced, right? Like Call Notes, which is like a transcription of the call on device, and then you actually have the notes after the fact taken for you. For me, that's going to be incredibly useful. Like when they're announcing that, I'm like, okay, that I know I'm going to want to use. Add Me is neat. That's the camera technology that allows you, if you're taking a big group shot, save some space in the shot, take the photo, and then it does an overlay of the photo that you just took, which allows you to kind of swap camera partners with someone and go into that space, and then it superimposes you with the magic of AI, blah, blah, blah. And it looked really good in the on-stage demos. That's cool. Pixel Studio, which is essentially image generation on the device. So, it's like Midjourney, but in your pocket, delivered by Google, and I imagine that's tapping into their premium subscription in order to do that. And which, by the way, if you buy any of these phones, you get a year of their premium subscription, which includes all of that AI magic, because they know once you start using it, you're going to be more likely to want to have to re-up, especially because they also give you larger amount of storage space. I think it's something like 2 terabytes. So it locks you in, man, and it won't let you go.
Or make you want to buy the new phone so you get another deal down the road.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
6.3-inch Pixel 9 starts at $799. That's $100 more than last year's model. The same size Pro, $999. 6.8-inch Pro XL, $1,099. All shipping August 22nd. None of them with Android 15. They'll get those later. Let's talk about the Pro Fold. This is the second version of a foldable for Google. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I am super, I haven't had a chance yet to go into the demo pit and kind of get my hands on the Fold, but I think it's a really, dare I say, sexy looking device. I think they've played around a little bit with the aspect ratio when it's unfolded to make it, to just bring it a little bit more in line with what you expect out of kind of a wider screen experience. I think it looks solid. And I think what's also really cool here is often with foldables, I think this is the year where this is changing, but often with foldables, you take a step down on the ladder as far as kind of the specs that are driving it. And this seems to be the year where they're saying, just because you're on a foldable, which is cutting edge, doesn't mean you have to take your step down on the ladder. And this phone is kind of a big example of that too. I'm really excited about it.
I like that it's more square when it's unfolded, but I actually like the folded version of last time. And so the fact that it has to be a little taller to get there, for me, maybe not that great. But
no, I would completely agree with that. I mean, the worst example of this is the Z Fold series. I hear that the current Z Fold has addressed this a little bit more, but it's still, in my opinion, a little too narrow to be, like similar to a standard phone that you'd have in your hands. The Pixel Fold, from what little use I got out of the previous version, seemed to address that on the cover. I hope that the cover is as useful, and I imagine it's going to be better than what we get out of the Z Fold, even this year. So I
would imagine so too. 8-inch inner screen, 6.3-inch outer, 4,650 milliamp hour battery for those who care. $1,799 though.
Boom. Yeah, but I mean, it isn't cheap, but at least they didn't boost the price. They did boost the price on the other phones. So, they decided, no, you know what? We've hit the upper limit on the Fold. We got to keep it here. And I think that was a good move.
That one's shipping September 4th. Let's talk about a couple other things real quick before we let you go. Pixel Watch 3, two sizes. There's a bigger size, right?
Yeah, well, they always had the smaller size, the 41 millimeter. Now they've got the new 45 millimeter. So, my wife was using the Pixel Watch too, because I've been letting her use the one that I have recently for fitness and stuff. And she was like, "Oh, new Pixel Watches, are they coming out with a smaller one?" I'm like, I hate to disappoint you. They're coming out with a larger one. So, maybe next year they have 3. But I mean, these watches, yes, they have that design, which I really do think that the Pixel Watch design is very beautiful and is very elegant, rounded. It just feels kind of premium when you have it on your wrist. But they're really leaning into once again, the AI aspects of a lot of this as relates to fitness and, that relationship with Fitbit and everything, the relationship being Google owns Fitbit, but the fact that they're really sharing their IP between those brands, really boosting the capabilities of the Pixel Watch to do a lot of these extra things like planning your workout for you, being a coach that's in your ear, these things that like as promises sound really neat. Really what it comes down to is in action, how do they deliver? And that's what I'm really curious about there.
Yeah. The pulse detection seems to be getting a lot of buzz as well.
Yeah. And that was something that, I didn't hear anything about. So if there was a surprise from the event and, I was looking around when that was being demonstrated, asking other people, were like, yeah, I hadn't heard about that. That seemed to be a legitimate surprise that came out of nowhere and could be a really big deal. Because it's not just pulse. Because like when you see that, you're like, oh, what? So it's not, is it going to have a lot of misfires because it's not landing correctly? And it's like all these different sensors together along with your pulse to determine, is there a loss of pulse event? Do we need to call 911 for you immediately and get you help?
Yeah. 16% smaller bezels. Watch 2 starts at $349, shipping September 10th. And then the Pixel Buds Pro 2, I don't know if you have much to say. They're a little smaller and they have the Tensor A1 chip in them.
Yeah, Tensor A1. And so they say, it's kind of like the first Pixel Buds with Gemini capability built in because of that A1 chip. And I'm assuming that Gemini Live interaction is streaming from the phone. That's an assumption. I haven't played around with it personally. But, you tap, you hold, and you say, let's talk live. And then you start to have a conversation with it and ask it things. And, it's that whole idea of that AI assistant being there to for you to bounce ideas off of or ask an ongoing question. Essentially, this Gemini Live seems to be a really big deal, launching with the phones. Also here, launching with the Pixel Buds Pro 2. Oh, sorry, 3. I keep saying, is it 2 or 3? I'm getting
the
name.
2.
It's 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything. Okay. That's
you
right.
made me wonder. Think for a second
yeah,
too. Yeah.
Apologies about that. But this is legitimately like the next phase of the Pixel Buds, not just, dumb noise cancellation headphones in your ear, but also really meant to kind of lean into what Google is doing on a holistic sense around their AI strategy.
I mean, you could just connect any buds to a phone and access Gemini, but this reduces latency and makes it smoother and all that sort of stuff.
I think that's a big deal. Yeah.
$229 coming September 26th. Before we let you go and get back to it, any last thoughts? Did you get to see Kiki Palmer or Jimmy Butler or anybody?
I mean, I saw them in the room. I will admit a couple of those names. I was like, who is that again? I know Mark Rober. Anyways, I think my final thought is when they ended the event, Rick Osterloh started talking about where AI is leading us and everything. Talked about Project Astra, which got a ton of buzz at Google I/O, coming first to Gemini. So that's kind of a hint that Astra is, on the roadmap to some degree, coming to Gemini on phones in the hopefully the near future. But then also really kind of pointing out the advanced research capabilities of what Google is working with around its AI, not just being able to pull down these websites, but really kind of follow the directory trees to really find the information and go deeper and deeper. And AI is really great for research, and that's the kind of stuff that could be incredibly useful given it's polished, given it's accurate, and I'm excited to see where that leads.
Yeah, a lot of givens to be seen, but promise.
Always
another promising one.
Always,
folks. If you haven't subscribed to Android Faithful yet, go do that. AndroidFaithful.com. And while you're there, you can read about all these devices in more detail. Mishal and Ron and Jason and Wen have been writing a lot of good stuff over there. Go check that out. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time, man. Appreciate it. All right, Sarah, let's
All right.
check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. If you like to challenge yourself to visit new places, perhaps you're just a competitive person. You want to see new things. Chris Christensen has the perfect website for you.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. If you are well-traveled and competitive and a country counter, then a site for you would be Most Traveled People, or mtp.travel. This is a site that makes it real easy for you to keep track of not just what countries you've been to or what UN recognized countries, but also divides the world into 1,500 different regions. You can see how much you have seen and also can see what other people have seen. You can also keep track of what World Heritage sites you've been to, what beaches, golf courses, dive sites, etc. But the country counting, I think, is what makes it very interesting, and the maps that you can automatically generate from that. The site, again, is mtp.travel, and this is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
That's fun.
I like it.
Yeah. Did you ever do that on Google Maps? They had a feature that was kind of similar to that at one point.
No. In fact, Google Maps keeps reminding me, like, do you want to save your timeline of everywhere you've ever been? I get that email once a week, and I keep saying, oh, yeah, I got to do that.
Yeah,
I
I
actually
should do
kind of
that.
like that stuff.
Yeah.
It's even if you're just breadcrumbs for yourself, I think I like that stuff.
We also got an email from RTJ in Brisbane, Australia, who had a tip for Sony's PSVR 2 controller issue that we talked about with Sean Hollister yesterday. RTJ says, I successfully connected the PSVR 2 to my NVIDIA Quadro RTX 4000 without an adapter thanks to the Virtual Link interface. I did encounter some setup issues with the controllers. If your system has onboard Bluetooth and you're using an external adapter, like the TP-Link UB500, be sure to disable the motherboard's Bluetooth in the BIOS. Without eye tracking and foveated rendering, I'd say the PSVR 2 is on par with my HP Reverb G2. Both deliver a similarly immersive, high-quality experience in Half-Life Alyx. As for a VR killer app, Horizon Call of the Mountain on the PS5 stands out for its use of eye tracking and foveated rendering. It would be fantastic if it were ported to PC, just like Horizon Forbidden West was earlier this year. Thanks for the thoughts on that, RTJ, and especially for the tip about disabling the BIOS. I'm going to pass that along to Sean as well.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who sends us email, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Also, thanks to Jason Howell. You can tell he was excited, boots on the ground.
On the ground,
Those are fun. Yeah, and a reminder, AndroidFaithful.com is where that team is going to have a big old roundup of the Made by Google event on their next episode, and it's a good show in general. You should check it out there. If you want to supplement your daily tech news with a weekly deep dive on all things Apple, in our latest episode of Apple Vision Show, Eileen Rivera and I revisit the pros and cons of an Apple One subscription. I had kind of forgotten about it. We talk about a lot of other stuff too. Join us at applevisionshow.com.
Patrons, stick around for the extended show. You get more on Good Day Internet. We're going to be talking with Pixel user Roger Chang. That's right. Our producer Roger uses a Pixel. Has Google swayed him to upgrade? Stick around and find out.
You can catch our show live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2000 UTC. And of course, you can always find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back tomorrow with Scott Johnson joining us, and I have a feeling it's going to be another good show in tech news. We'll talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.